Welcome, everyone, to this week's edition of the State of Greater Western New York Report. This week is really a continuation of what we started last week, which is a historical diary of the 2024 presidential election. This time, we're going to be giving you the pro-Trump side, and it'll be a real doozy. As always, it's brought to you by those fine folks at... Each week, our community makes history. Each week, you make history. And each week, there's only one source to turn to for the first take on history. You know what that is? Subscribe to the Sentinel right now to discover the history being made in your own backyard.
The Menden Honey Falls Lima Sentinel. More than just your news, it's your history. Welcome, everyone, to this edition of the State of Greater Western New York Report. Join us each episode as we discuss fantastic topics ranging from history to science to the strange and the wonderful, as well as the treasured spirit with which our region has infused America. We challenge you to consider all things Greater Western New York, from our region's very beginnings to how it inspires, how it empowers, and why it is so admired. Here's the host of the State of Greater Western New York Report, Chris Carosa.
Hi there and welcome, everyone. We've got a great show this week, and as always, if you have any thoughts or questions, definitely put them in the chat area. Maybe you'll be able to interact with our guest. For now, let's get right to our guest. His name is Matt Fritz, and he's been a Trump supporter for quite a long time. Matt was telling me about how long he's been supporting Trump. Matt, tell us in your own words how you got to be a Trump fan and what you remember about the first thing you remember about him.
Well, the first of all, thanks very much for having me on, Chris. I greatly appreciate it. I first and foremost have never been much into politics, and the first person I ever voted for, I know that sounds bad, but the first time I ever voted for a president was Ross Perot, and that's because he wasn't a politician; he was a businessman. And the truth is, here we are X amount of years later in 2016 when Trump announced that he was going to run. I said, here's another gentleman that is not a politician. He's a businessman, and I really, really, really have always stood my ground on that this country needs to be run more like a business, and it's just that plain and simple.
So when you got interested in Trump initially, was it because he was running for president, or did you read his book, The Art of the Deal, or did you watch him on TV? When was it? What were your first impressions of Trump before he was involved in politics?
You know, it's funny you asked that because actually nobody's ever asked me that. I've never read his book. I have never watched a single episode of what I think they called The Apprentice that he was on. I really didn't know much about Donald Trump. I knew of him. I just knew he was a really rich guy that lived in New York City, is really all I knew. But then I started paying more and more attention um, after Barack Obama's catastrophe of running. And then I started paying a little bit more attention to politics slightly. Then when I heard he announced he was running, and then I seen all these people as I started to continue to watch a little bit more of this. We're in a whole new world almost with social media as we sit here on camera together ourselves talking. Um, and it's funny because it even up to now, it seems almost like it's a battle. You have X and TikTok, and you have all these unbelievable social media things. And I guess that's what really, I think everybody, without knowing it, got involved because had a Twitter account and he was being mean or saying mean things. And, and then I'll be honest with you, the more and more I watched it, the more and more I liked the guy. And the reason I like the guy, because he talked a lot like I do, I am a very, very much so tit for tat guy. You say something to me, I'm going to say something back. And it just escalated from there. Then I'm like, wow, I really, really like this guy. And I think he can make a difference, and he's definitely going to get my vote, that's for sure. And I decided to go all in with the, as a lot of people don't know, but I'm known locally as the Trump guy, and that's when I started, had my first Trump truck and started playing music and going a little crazy.
I'm curious. Uh, what's your background in terms of where you grew up? You didn't grow up in New York City by any chance, did you?
No, absolutely not. I grew up in my hometown, my hometown slash towns are Shortsville, Manchester, New
Hmm.
York,
Okay.
and here in the Finger Lakes region, and really nothing to do with New York City. As a matter of fact, I'm not a city person at all. I'm a country boy and a big hunter and fisherman and so
The
on.
reason why I ask is the way you describe Trump is like in terms of New York tough, and often people who are from New York City kind of talk about Trump in that aspect. And I'm not talking about people who are political or anything, just regular people. When you think of New York, certainly Donald Trump has that sort of persona. And he probably needed it if he was going to be successful as a businessman down there, building houses. So in 2016, uh, he won the election. He, as he progressed in his term, did you find yourself liking him more, or were there certain aspects about him that disappointed you?
Um, I have never once, never, not been the guy that said, "Geez, I wish he would tone it down a little," or "I wish he wouldn't say so much," or "I wish he wouldn't tweet," or "I would." Never, because he's just being a human being, and he's talking like I would talk, and I just didn't understand the people that didn't like him doing that. Now, did he stick his foot in his mouth once in a while, just like you might or I might? Yes, but you're also talking about the president of the United States of America here, and he got put right under a microscope. And the reason I started liking him more and more is, and I hate saying this, but it was the more and more that the other side didn't like him was why I did like him. And even to this day as we sit here, boy oh boy, I couldn't have been any more right about that situation, because the more they hated him, that's just exactly why he won the presidency again as we sit here.
Well, what were your thoughts and feelings after the 2020 election when it turned out he lost? Were there a lot of people who questioned it? But what were your thoughts then?
Well, so the deal is this, and I'm not afraid to talk about it, and I never have been. I went down there January 6th. I am a J6er. The FBI had shown up to my house right here where I sit. I'll never forget the night they knocked on my door. It was below zero outside, wind chill. It was probably like 5 degrees out, and I have cameras all around my house because I live in the Trump house, and I have a lot of Trump flags, and I have actual images of Trump out there and mega and all of that. And a lot of my alarms were going off right in a circular in order around the house. And sure enough, on the back porch, I brought up my Ring doorbell, and there sat two gentlemen with FBI masks on, asking if they could come in. And I said no. I said I don't want you to come into my house. I didn't do anything wrong. I went down there to support that. In what I felt, in my opinion, I know this is a very touchy topic about, was the election rigged in 2020? Was it this? Was it that? But I just, bottom line is this: I went down, drove down with a group of people, local people, to support the president of the United States that I felt had won the election. And because of all these controversies, you had leaky faucets in the middle of the night, and I was paying very, very close attention to the election that night. And Trump was really on his way to a big victory around 10 o'clock, 10:30. And then all these crazy things started happening, water leaks and power outages or whatever it might be. So, getting back to your main question of what I thought of it, and I just, I think a lot of people, I mean, the very, very next day, I hung 4 flags on my front porch that said Trump 2024. The very next day, because I knew he was coming back with a vengeance. And once again, here we are. And
Right.
I'm not normally not the guy to toot my own horn or say I told you so, but boy, did I tell you so. And people even asked me, and I did. I hung 4 flags off my front porch saying Trump 2024, and Trump won. So.
Let me just since you brought up January 6th, I was kind of curious. When you were there, did you get the impression that maybe, well, did you go there with the intent to go into the Capitol? Or did you get the impression that, like some people say, that there were some instigators that sort of encouraged people to go into the Capitol?
Yeah, I mean, I have to laugh when you say that I have the intentions to go into the Capitol. No, my intentions were to listen to Donald Trump speak, and I, and I'm not afraid to say. My grandmother used to say, "My mouth goes like a duck's ass wiggles." Well, the truth is, Donald Trump can be pretty talkative himself. Okay, and it was colder than a well digger's backside, and he was just yapping and yapping and yapping, and the wind was blowing, and we were up there by the Washington Monument, and I said, let's get down out of this wind. And we dropped down into the streets. Um, I guess another thing is I'm a big Buffalo Bills fan, so I have been on the field with crowds of people when they storm the stadium, they storm the field, 50, 60,000 people. This was, a million people. You can't imagine when they moved, you moved. And Trump did say, let's go down and peacefully protest in front, and peacefully, in a peaceful manner, and we worked our way down that way. But the incredible thing was, I was there, I witnessed it, I seen it. There was people that really were terrible actors. They had their hats on and their mega shirts or hats all brand new, and they were saying, "Come on, let's go! Come on, we can do this! Let's go!" And I'm like, where are we going? I don't even know what you're saying. They were trying to convince us to jump over this rock wall, which was where Bill Barr was. I don't want to go into all this detail, but I was there. I was a part of it, and I heard the big chant saying, "Do your job." I mean, if you can imagine, let's just say 500,000, 300,000 people chanting, "Do your job, do your job." And I'm like, what are these people doing? And they were at the Justice Department because Bill Barr was in there and they wanted him to release Hunter's laptop. And as we know now, he should have. And um, that was when I seen the fake actors jumping up on these rocks going, let's go, let's go. And I'm like, dude, where are we going? I don't understand what you're saying. Oh, we're going to go inside. I go, I'm not going inside. What are you, nuts? There's security guards in there. But it was absolutely amazing. And that's right when I got the information on the cell phone and from the people I was with that something had happened at the Capitol. Somebody got inside the Capitol, which was down the road further, like looking, half a mile down the road. And we went that direction. And I did see, I seen four, what I would assume were National Guard, Army, I don't know who they were, full uniform, guns, everything, going the other way. They were walking the other direction after we were just told to go to the Capitol because something was going on.
They were
And I
walking
thought,
away from the Capitol?
they were walking the other direction. Absolutely. Right after we were told that. I remember that that's probably the most vivid thing I remember that day.
So at what point did you say, forget it, I'm taking off?
The point was when we got down there, a million people, it was very, very exciting. And just so happened, he's literally is my best friend, is in the Secret Service. And I was on the phone with him and he said, hey, Matt, things are getting pretty heated up. I just got called into work because something's going on. And then they carried this giant flag, the kind you'd see on a football field. They carried this giant flag by me, and I helped carry that to the steps. And I'm underneath it, if you will, kind of like being under when you were a kid and had made a table for it. You're under there, and you're looking around, and all of a sudden I see some not so healthy people coming down the steps with rubber bullet marks on their face and tear gas. And I had no intentions to go up there anyways. I was going to the steps, and I'm just going to be point blank and be honest. I was cold and I had to go to the bathroom. It's that simple. I'm not walking up these big flights of steps to go inside. And at this point, there was nothing really other than just sheer freedom of cheering on our country. But then all of a sudden, at that time, you could see things were starting to escalate. And then that is when we heard about the only individual to get killed that day. We heard about Ashley Babbitt getting shot. And I said, uh-oh. I said, you know what? Let's just walk back to the cars and get out of here. And I was with another girl that was scared, and she stayed by my side. And if you ever been to Washington, I'm not big into cities, but you have to get on the red line, and you got to get on the subway, and you got to travel to your car. all this, that, and the other thing. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Wow, very fascinating, and thank you for
Yep.
sharing that with us. Well, so let's fast forward 4 years to
Yep.
just before the first debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. So at that point, it's Trump versus Biden. What was your feeling heading into that debate about both of the participants?
I think my feeling was of anybody with common sense that knew uh, Joe Biden. He was not, I'm not very good at my terminology, cognitively or whatever. He's not all there. We all age different. We all have different ways that we go throughout our lives, and there's the Einsteins that are geniuses, and there's people that aren't so smart and whatever. But as we get older, we all, I believe, lose our senses to some extreme. And I feel Donald Trump, I don't know ages exactly. I think Donald Trump's 78, and I believe Joe Biden is now 80. They're very close in age. If you were to talk to two people that were only 2 years apart, anywhere up into their probably early 60s, you were okay. But once you start getting past 70, 70 years old, I have a father who's still alive. He's 84. And I just knew coming into that debate that uh, it was unbelievable. It's just unbelievable what the media does and how they were talking about how Joe Biden still got all his senses and he's still quick as a whip. Meanwhile, he's falling over on bikes and tripping upstairs. The guy, it was actually kind of embarrassing, disgraceful, and sad to see for the United States of America to have a leader like that. But I just knew going into that debate that it, just the one part where Biden rambled on and Trump looked at the camera, looked around, and said, I don't have any idea what he said. I don't think he knows what he said.
Did
And
it
that was the
shock you that?
debate summed
Did,
up.
yeah, did it shock you that he was that he performed the way he did? I mean, it sounds like you were expecting that he wasn't, say, necessarily as cognitively able as maybe the media suggested he was, but still, it was a real cold slap in the face to see him perform the way he did. I'm just wondering, is that were you surprised by that?
Now, when you say perform the way he did, are you talking about good or bad? Because
Well,
I didn't
bad.
see
I
it.
mean,
Yeah, I just don't. It's like I said. To be honest with you, it's almost embarrassing. We are supposed to be known as the most powerful, greatest nation in the world, and you got a gentleman up there that can't even talk, and you can only imagine. I hear there's drugs you can take for Alzheimer's, and they try to get you to talk better or whatever. It was unbelievable, and it's still, as we sit here now, I just everything that happened, I kind of seen coming and seen happening because just Trump had his wits about him, and it was like I said, it was more or less sad. Unbelievable.
where what did you think? I mean, having seen him at the debate perform the way he did, why do you think he did it? I'm talking about Biden now.
Um, I don't look as deep into things as people do, and I don't go down too many rabbit holes. I'm not a big QAnon person at all. I think I try to do my own research from everything from Twitter to YouTube to everything else. But in all reality, this goes for every American. What do we really know that the media is not telling us or telling us? You don't know what's true, you don't know what's false. But I, he just, I knew he was in after that. Even the Democrats on the other side that have Trump derangement syndrome and cannot stand Trump that much were saying we're in trouble. Joe Biden cannot lead this country, and he's not the person we've been saying he is.
Now, he didn't step down until after the first assassination attempt. Before we get to him stepping down, let's talk about that first assassination attempt. What what were you thinking when you were first of all, where were you when you first heard that there were shots?
Well, I was at so I do own a store selling merchandise. I work full time as well, but I sell stuff. Fritz's Patriot Place. I sell merchandise, and I was at a very, very big event out in Esperance, New York, and thousands of people. And the girl that she's my girlfriend now, Gina, and she had a little more technology than I. I do have a cell phone, but I don't have a watch, basically, to tell me when to go to the bathroom or anything. And I'm not saying hers did that, but I see her look at her watch, and she looked at me and she goes, "Trump just got shot." And I said, "Yeah, right." I said, "Let me know when it's on Fox News." She goes, "Yeah, that's who's saying it." And I said, "Hold on a minute." And sure enough, it was pretty crazy at the time. The Everybody was coming up because I have a lot of people don't know this. I don't even know if you know this. I have my own man-made Trump blimp, blow-up blimp, and it's 30 feet high. So everybody, and he's standing there, and everybody's coming up and just talking to me. And did you hear what just happened? And I'm not gonna lie, right in the heat of the moment, more merchandise started selling right on the spot. Because when we got word that he was okay, and we started seeing the images of him standing up and asking where his shoes were, and he said, "Fight, fight, fight." I seriously got a little like, "Is he okay?" And if I was watching that live, I think I would have went from tears or shock, jaw drop to like, "Oh my God," to probably tears of sadness to tears of joy, at least water in my eyes, probably within seconds.
Wow. And so the event you were at, was that a just a like a flea market, or was it a political thing, or
It was an absolute, absolute crazy, chaotic mud run. It
oh,
was four-wheel drives. Oh yeah, it was yeah, a little crazy. I got invited out there. I'd never been to it before. But yeah, so I was just there selling political merchandise. It was not like a rally or set up anything like that for selling Trump stuff per se for the group of people. But
so
Trump.
then the people that came to your place, was that a bit of a surprise? Were there a lot of people, most of the people, or what sense did you get from the crowd?
From when he got shot, or you mean
Yeah,
just
from
selling merchandise in
well,
general? Kind
from
of.
yeah, when he got shot.
Well, the owner of this whole facility, who's a pretty big hitter, heavy hitter, he came up and he was livid, irate, but thankful that Trump was okay. And I think that, you know, selling this merchandise as I have and feeling people out, a lot of people come to me and ask me and want my opinion. And what do I don't know more than the next guy, but yes, I do watch a little bit more than the next guy, probably. And I'll tell you, it's always been a lopsided, way more. I used to count how many waves and horn honks I would get going down the thruway driving my Trump truck compared to, say, middle fingers or thumbs down. And it's always been, I will just tell you, 75, 80% positive, the other two or three negative. It's just
So
always been that way.
a few days after this, we had the Republican National Committee meeting, but also we had Biden stepping down. It, were you expecting Biden to step down, and who were you thinking would end up replacing him as the Democratic candidate?
I don't think Biden stepped down. I think he fell down. No, I'm just kidding. That's just a joke. But anyways, I think Biden the whole time since I'm sorry since COVID and the rigged election, in my opinion, has always just been a puzzle piece. And now I think they got someone in there that really went downhill in a hurry, and they're like, "What are we gonna do?" And they just shoved, and I feel terrible. They just shoved Kamala Harris in there, and it was just, to me, it was just a literally 98% a disaster, because you had a gentleman that's been in politics for almost 50 years and has done nothing, win the presidency on what? Nothing. And now you got a lady coming in that's done nothing to step up and try to run. And I'm just using common sense here. I'm not talking just because I am a Republican. I'm like, what are they? And all she could do is, laugh really loud and obvious. I just, it was, the whole thing to me was just embarrassing. And people would ask me, "Do you think Trump's going to win?" And I said, "He's going to win in a landslide. There's no doubt about it. He is. But what are they going to do to try to stop it?" And let's not forget, as we sit here tonight, he's still not in there till he signs that paper and gives that speech, and that does
Mhm.
make me nervous from these assassination attempts.
Well, yeah, let's get to the next assassination attempt. So it was, I don't even remember when it was now, but what were your thoughts after the second attempt? And this one was actually, I think, more clearly tied to, say, political rhetoric than the first one.
Well, you got it. I mean, I know we're strapped for time a little bit here, but we could talk for hours and hours and hours, if not days, weeks, months, and years, about how the other side, the Democrats, and especially the news media. I won't say just Democrats in general, but the news media, how they just call him a fascist or racist and a Nazi and all that. What do they? How do they think people are going to react to that? There's some people out there that believe it, even though Trump was already in there for 4 years. Did he do anything besides make our gas prices go lower and have a safe border and no wars and a great economy? I just don't understand it. I really don't. And to this day, I still don't understand it. But when you got a guy laying in the bushes on a golf course with a rifle, and I really, as I said, I'm very, very surprised that unfortunately to talk like this, but he's got to get in there and he's got to survive. But the way they talk about him and just the way the other side reacts, it's just actually shocking and unbelievable.
So let's move ahead again now to the election night. The election night, the polls were showing that it was pretty close, that it was going to be tied. People were expecting to stay up very late into the night, or maybe even several days after election day before a winner was declared. And yet, we have, as you say, virtually a landslide victory. Did you stay up all night to watch it, or did you wait until the next day to hear the results?
Well, like I was talking earlier about, as we get older, things change. I was dozing on and off, and my big fear was that we were probably looking at another how many days slash weeks or maybe even months before we wrap this up. But then I did fall asleep very briefly but it was very early in the night. And then when I woke up, probably somewhere around midnight, 1 o'clock, I started tuning right back in to where we were, and I'll never forget. Several, I think it was the New York Times and a couple other places were saying Donald Trump's chances of winning at like 1 o'clock in the morning were around 72%, and I'm like, whoa, that's pretty good. And then literally within the hour, they had said, yeah, she's got a better chance of playing pickup sticks with her backside than winning this election. So yeah, I just it was incredible. I did crack open. I got some sitting here right next to me, but it's not within reach. My Mega Ultra beer. I was here by myself, unfortunately, with my two little kids, my dogs. But I had tears in my eyes and drank a beer at 2:20, whatever it was in the morning when they said we will now predict that Donald Trump will be the 47th president. So
So the immediate aftermath, and you've been a pro-Trump person very visibly in the community for a number of years. How did people react? Did you see a change after the election when it was obvious that Trump won? For example, did people honk more horns at you, or did they buy more
oh,
merchandise? What did you see in terms of that?
that's funny because we could go into a spiel on that because with the merchandise, it's a game you play. Like in 2020, I lost my backside because he lost the election, and I ended up eating a lot of merchandise that was, say, would have sold. And then this time, even though I was still cautious, money, you have to be careful with your finances. After he won, they wanted more and more and more, and even to this day, as we sit here, I'm still selling a lot of Trump merchandise, a lot of stocking stuffers, Trump on the shelf, you name it, I have it. And the first thing I noticed though was how fast the Kamala Harris yard signs went down. Because on my way to work the next day, or actually I was going out of town deer hunting, but I went by several houses that the signs were already gone. I
Did
I just
Did you? This was reported by some people in the media. Did you get a sense that people put up Trump signs after the election?
Um, when you say some people put them up, you mean just in general?
Yeah, just like randomly
Yeah.
that they weren't there before the election, but they're there after the election.
Yes, absolutely. And I will tell you, it's a very, very frustrating thing when I'm selling the merchandise. I would have very, nice conversations because believe me, I've witnessed it all selling this merchandise. The biggest thing that bothered me the most, and it didn't surprise me one bit when I seen this happening, people would come up to buy a flag, a sticker, whatever it might be, and this is what they would say: "Oh, I'd really like to buy that flag and hang it up, but my neighbor." And boy, oh boy, there is nothing that got me more fired up. And I wouldn't go crazy on them right away, but I'd say, because your neighbor drives a Chevy car, do you drive one too? I said that's the problem we have in the Republican Party is we're in this country we're afraid to show our support. So what had happened when Trump won the election? Oh, it's now okay because he won the what am I looking for, the majority or the
Oh, the
popular
popular
vote.
vote. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
he won by 7 million. Oh, now it's okay. We can put signs out and we can get signs from that and we can be good now, which I understand. I'm not knocking any of those people because, and look at, if anybody's house was going to get shot, I mean, I have your occasional bag of dog poo or a beer bottle in my front yard, but outside of that, my house is the Trump house. It's lit up at night, and there's people here taking pictures all the time. I've dealt with my share of Black Lives Matter. I've dealt with my share of hate mail, stacks of it. I just kept going forward, just like who? Donald J. Trump did.
I'm kind of curious. Now, this is more of a business question than a political question. How do you how do you get your merchandise? Is it specialty made? Are there distributors that sell it? And how far in advance do you have to order something?
Well, I'm not afraid to say this as well. As we know, it depends on what you're talking about. If I can get stuff from, which I do have a great local gentleman that does all my wraps, my yard signs, my vinyl decals, all that stuff. And the gentleman that does my t-shirts, the material itself is made in America. If I can get anything locally made or made in America, I do. But just like now, the big thing is TikTok shop, and of course, the biggest thing is Amazon. We all know the big C word that where everything comes from is China, and that. And it's because if I could get, like, this Trump hat that I'm wearing is by far my best selling hat. I did look into getting them made here in America, and they're $40 to $50 to have one made. So I can't turn around and sell hats for $60 $70 to try to make a profit. So some of my stuff does come from China. I should say Amazon, which I don't dig into the background. I sell what I sell. I sell what the people want, but for the most part, I have people that sell it by bulk locally that get it from wherever else, and then I sell it from there.
So let me ask you one final question. Do you think that Trump is better off having spent 4 years away from the White House and that coming back now, as opposed to serving 8 consecutive years, makes him a different type of president, maybe a stronger president? What do you think about that?
What he's been through, especially people that didn't follow it, and my girlfriend at the time, right now, my girlfriend, I don't mean at the time, but at the time she didn't follow politics. And now that she's with me and she really sees what's going on, she's just in shock at the things they did. And a perfect example is when Christopher Wray just resigned today, but they're raiding a gentleman's house. They're making these things up, and they're going through his wife's underwear drawer. The stuff they did to him in the past 4 years to try to keep him out of office, and what they did to him while he was in there, I definitely think he's way ahead of the game by going in like this. But the thing that really nobody ever talked about, nobody, in my opinion, only me, Matt Fritz, right here on your show, is gonna say it. And I'm not going to put you on the spot, but when you go to interview somebody for your company, for wherever you work, what's the number one question you have to ask them, or what you need to know? What is your job experience? Have you ever worked in this business? Trump had been there. He's the only one that had been into the swamp. And the first time he jumped in, he thought he was going to his ankles, and he went right to his neck when they nailed him for Russian hoax and all of the Comey and Brennan. I mean, in my opinion, they should all be arrested, especially Adam Schiff. He just, yeah. But the list goes on and on. But you're talking about, this is unbelievable that he's already got experience of being there, and now he's bringing in his own people to fix things. And I think it's going to be incredible. I really do. Especially, we got the richest man. Unfortunately, everything runs off, everything's money. Oh, money, money. There's only two things in this world, remember, that money can't buy. That's love and health. You heard that from me. You got cancer, you're checking in. If you don't love somebody, you can't stay with them because of money. Love and health. Other than that, money's everything. And Elon Musk is a very, what are you, a rocket scientist? Yes, I happen to be one, and I'm $284 billion in net worth. I think we're going in with the right crew, and I think we're going to clean up what's going on, and I think we're going to have a great country. I really do. And I see the Democrat. I don't want to see that happen. I don't know much about politics, but I don't see the Democrat Party recovering from this. They don't even have a glimmer of anybody to even run again, and it's just a shame. It is, but I think Trump is way, way ahead of the ball game right now.
Well, Matt, thank you very much for taking the time. I know we're a little bit longer than normal, but you gave us a lot of good historical information. And hopefully people in the future who watch this show, maybe read the transcript if it's ever published somewhere, might be able to take away from it something that they wouldn't have found out elsewhere. You certainly have very unique experience, and I congratulate you for everything that you've done. Again, I'll just say that I'll just give you one more plug here. You do have a Fritz Patriot Place. I guess they could just look it up and find out where it is. And it's is it online too, or is it just physical?
I recently actually Google's been reaching out to me about getting it online because they've had so many hits for Trump merchandise. But yeah, Fritz's Patriot Place. And then, as always, I will say it's always best to call or text me at 585-880-7130. Always call or text.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. Remember, anybody who wants to watch this show live can do so. Go to State of Greater Western New York, state.greaterwesternnewyork.com, and scroll down to the bottom of the front page there, and you can sign up for free. And every Thursday morning, you will get the invitation, the secret invitation, to find out how to watch this live. And it's only if you're watching it live that you can ask a question of our guest, and we'll see what happens then. Otherwise, what you can do is go to our site, same thing, state.greaterwesternnewyork.com, and the archive will be there, and you'll be able to watch the show there. Also, if you like our Facebook page or subscribe to our YouTube channel, those platforms will notify you when the show is rebroadcast at 1:30 on Sunday afternoon. That's all for this week. We'll see you all next time. Everyone have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year if we don't see you before then. Otherwise, ta-ta for now.